Wilder Show podcast. I'm Scott. That's Lauren.
Hello.
Hi, Lauren. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Bunch of stuff today. Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time or before on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, TikTok now and again, really wherever you get your podcast. Also on Instagram as Wilder Show Pod. You can email us, podcast@wildershow.com, or really a good way to do it for the algorithm is for you to engage us where you find us, on that platform. So a thumbs up or a comment or whatever, that's really helpful. So wherever you get your podcasts, would you please like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share? And we appreciate that. All right, let's start with an encouraging word. You know what a positive person I am.
You are such a positive person.
All right, well, hold on, smarty pants. When there is something that you dread, let's say something, in the future, something coming up, something into the week, into the month, whatever, it's around the corner, and you might describe that as that certain things are gathering on the horizon. What is that? What are those things that are looming? Dark clouds. Right, exactly. Dark clouds. Yep. Now, here's my encouraging word. There is no such thing as a dark cloud.
How so?
They don't exist. They literally do not exist.
Is this about science?
Yes. You might think that you've seen a dark cloud.
Yeah.
Or that they exist, but you haven't. No one has. When you fly over the clouds, guess what? None of them are dark. Mm-hmm. None of them. Even the big storm clouds that are there, when you fly above them, they are not dark. Now you might say, hey, I've flown above them and sometimes I see some that are dark. Yeah. You know what? They're only dark because the sun is not shining on that part of the cloud.
I gotcha.
Think of it for a second. Usually when you think of dark clouds, it's the bottom of the clouds that are so dark, right? Because that the light has been blocked out sufficiently by the time it gets to the bottom. So there's really no such thing as a dark cloud. They just appear to be dark, but they're not really dark. And actually, technically, they're not white either. See, there are water particles in the air, and the water particles, you don't even see them, but they're there. But you don't even see them until they get a bunch kind of chumming up together. When they come together and they begin to gather closer together, that's when the light reflects off of them and it appears to be white. And if you get enough of them crammed together, the light can't get through.
Wow.
And that other side appears to be dark.
Okay.
But there is no dark cloud.
I think we can carry this metaphor
there you go.
through
here.
Okay.
Let me do that. If you have dark clouds in your life, or they appear to be dark, expose them to the sun. There you go.
There you go.
That'll preach. Take that, preacher boys.
Very good.
Shark Week is this week.
I love Shark Week.
Shark Week starts on Sunday night. Man.
I don't personally love Shark Week.
Yeah.
Nothing used to bind my teenagers together, though, like Shark Week. At that,
like the
when
murder
they were
of seals.
Yeah, when they, I don't think we thought about it that way. But when they were at that age, when they really had very little in common with each other. But man, we had to get home by whatever time Shark Week was starting because they were all into that.
How did we just give everybody a pass on the hating of sea lions and seals? For the week of Shark Week.
It's not hating. It's just the circle of life.
Yeah, for that we sing the circle of life. Yeah. That's all. I actually watched the original Jaws within the last week.
Oh yeah,
with my mother.
Oh, had she never seen it?
She'd never seen it before. Never seen it before.
What did she think?
Thought some of it was kind of gross, obviously.
Yeah.
And because if you've never seen it before, if you don't know the story. I had to explain some stuff. No, that's the sheriff. That's not the mayor.
Yeah.
That's the mayor's son. And, that's the scientist. But, man, there is nothing like it. I mean, nothing like. And I know we've talked about this before, but when you're writing a screenplay, do you know when you have written the line that will become the iconic line from the movie? I probably would think, you do sometimes.
Maybe, but I would think most of the time they have no idea. Most of the time they would say, screenwriters would say, they had no idea it was even going to be a hit or not.
That's right. Well, and the other thing is, a lot of that comes because of the way a line is delivered.
Sure.
And you can't know how a line is going to be delivered when you're writing it. So you have Roy Scheider, who's on the boat, and he has his cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He's been throwing chum in the water, and he sees something that the captain doesn't see. And what's his face? Marsha Mason's boyfriend in the other movie.
Richard Dreyfuss was Marsha Mason's boyfriend in The Goodbye Girl.
That's right. Anyway, so Richard Dreyfuss didn't see it, and neither did the captain of the boat. And man, I know everybody knows this. We've all seen it, but man, that thing where Roy Scheider has that really pale look on his face and just says, "We're going to need a bigger boat." It's just so fun. Anyway, watch the whole thing with my mom. It's fun.
I don't think I've seen it all the way through.
Listen, you gotta see it. But it is, man, it is stark.
Yeah.
That very first thing. And you do understand. Well, you did watch, though, the Widow's Bay, right?
I did watch Widow's Bay.
Okay, very, very similar. Widow's Bay.
Really?
Talking about tourism. We can't do anything but tourism. This is tourist season.
Yeah.
We want to be the Martha's Vineyard's little sister, or whatever it was. It very much like that. I mean, in the was it Amity? Is that the name of the city, wherever it was, Amity Island or whatever? I know it was in Amityville Horror, but whatever the name of the island was. In Jaws, the whole thing was it's July 4th weekend, and this is our big tourist time, but there was a shark attack.
So you got to try to keep it quiet to keep the tourists coming.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. White House Correspondents' Dinner is tonight. The redo, the Mulligan.
Oh, the reschedule. Okay.
Yeah, they have it. They're having it tonight. I wonder if was he a mind reader? What was the guy that was
mentalist? Mentalist.
Yeah, if he's a mind reader, he would have known earlier that thing that happened last time. But he's the mentalist. I wonder if he'll be there. I haven't heard anything about who's going to be there. I'm sure that the president will be there. It's a redo. It's tonight. It's going to be the Waldorf Astoria. The Waldorf Astoria. The address is 1100 Pennsylvania Avenue, so 5 blocks away from the White House. It's normally at the Washington Hilton. That's where it was last time. Where it was that thing with the crazy guy whose name we can't remember. He was been charged with attempting to murder whoever. I guess the president. Anyway,
he's just one of many lately.
Yeah, I think that was the third attempt. Third, hopefully not third in counting, but third. The Waldorf Astoria is smaller. I think easier to secure. Anyway, I'll probably watch. You never know. It sounds, they call it the nerd prom. A bunch of journalists dressing up in their roughly tuxedo shirts and having their picture made on their porch with their date before they get off for the evening.
I think they all clean up pretty well.
I'm kidding. Yeah, but you never know. It may seem nerdy, but man, big stuff can happen, obviously. So I'm going to watch. A word of clarification about something that happened on my time for Mark Davis this last week on the radio. And it had to do with something that we've talked about before. It was prompted by something I said about the service members who were killed in combat. Let me read quickly a little news piece about the dignified transfer ceremony at Dover Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware. That's when they returned the remains of those who have died. And it is a somber thing. I mean, as you might imagine, but it's almost sacred, I think. There's no talking. There's no announcer. There's no music, no trumpet, no taps, nothing. Just the sound of the feet of those carrying the casket from the plane to the vehicle. And then the sound of, the loved ones mourning, actually. And here is from that piece. President Donald Trump traveled to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware on Wednesday to attend a dignified transfer of U.S. service members killed in the war in Iran. We're going to Dover. Some of you are going with us to honor our heroes, and they are indeed great heroes, actually. Trump told reporters just before boarding Air Force One to travel to Dover. The president said the dignified transfer ceremony is, quote, one of the hardest things to do as president, but it has to be done. This is the part that got my attention. This is still part of the news piece. Trump then proceeded to defend the war in Iran, claiming that, quote, all of the fallen soldiers had echoed his war aims. Quoting, all of them said very strongly, we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Okay, that's the end of the news piece. That part I found offensive.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it is credible. I don't think that is true. And what I said was the reason why someone volunteers to serve is that motivation. But that doesn't mean that that is their motivation every single day that they are serving. A year later, a decade later, longer than that later. Somebody may decide they want to serve because of what happened on September 11th. But I don't think maybe as you go to war for something else against other people for a different reason in a different part of the world, they would then, stand up and say, remember the Alamo.
Right.
You might do that for the Battle of San Jacinto because it's within proximity, both geographically and chronologically, to what happened at the Alamo. But 5 years later, 10 years later, you might be doing it just because that is your job. You trust the leadership. You trust the commander-in-chief. You trust the chain of command. So men and women could be motivated to volunteer for any of the reasons, but at that moment, when they have a job to do, it is their job. They are following orders. I mean, at that moment, I was saying I didn't think it is primarily ideological. That was what inspired them to join, but later they simply trust the chain of command rather than every individual who is given an order, then seeing if it fits with their motivation, something they actually want to do or agree with. We don't want that. That's what gave us Bradley Manning. Someone being given an order and thinking, I don't know about this. What do I think about this? If they're told to take that hill, we don't want somebody saying, well, what about that hill? Could we just talk about this for a second? Maybe take a vote? No. You do it because it is your job. You do it because you're ordered to do it. So this guy calls. He didn't appreciate, what I had to say. And so when he calls, and this is not really to make him look wrong or make me look right. It's not about that at all. I bring it up because there is an element of this that we've talked about before. Here's what he said. He says, first thing out of the gate, I said something like, hey, whatever his name was, let's say Bill. I don't know. I don't think it was Bill. I said, hey, Bill, Scott Wilder for Mark Davis. Good morning. Thanks for the call or something, kind of
a greeting.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, let me ask you this. When did you serve? Oh, okay. I have some sense of where we're going. And we had a conversation, and I was very nice to him. And but his point was essentially that he has a trump card he's going to play. We talk about trump cards, lowercase t. We talk about trump cards all the time. We play a trump card. Trump cards are not ever intended to help win an argument. They are always intended to shut the argument down, to shut the other side up. If you have a problem with Barack Obama's trade policy, that trump card of saying you might be a racist, that is to shut you down. It isn't to win the argument with the facts. It's simply to shut you down.
Don't you think most people who do that, though, who use a trump card to shut down an argument, think they are winning the argument?
I'm quite certain they think they're winning it.
Mm-hmm.
I showed that guy. I told him that it doesn't matter. What you're saying doesn't matter. You're being arrogant for telling anybody what somebody who is serving is thinking or what motivates them because you have not served.
Yeah.
Let's turn that on. Let's turn that exactly around. So then, if I had served, that would always be right. If I can never be right if I have not served, then if I have served, like this guy had served, then he's always right.
Mm-hmm.
He probably thinks that he won.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, for the reasonable among us, the non-great Santinis, we have to be able to say, what is the reasoning behind that? I mean, this is a guy that served for decades. He served for presidents who did not serve. Pardon?
Mm.
Those were your commanders in chief. You had men and women in the Senate who were deciding about whether to go to war, men and women in the House of Representatives who were deciding about whether to go to war. They may or may not have served.
Right.
Were they arrogant for having an opinion on that? Am I qualified to have an opinion on abortion, even though I'm a man? Absolutely, I can do that. So, I did all this stuff I'm saying right now, and this is not, oh, Scott, if you think like this, why didn't you talk to him that way? Why are you talking to me this way? But honestly, it's not my house. That is not my house. That is, I'm a guest host on somebody else's show. I was nice to him. I thanked him for his service, asked him how long he served and for which branch, thanked him for the fact that his sons were serving, that his father had served, thanked him for the sacrifice, thanked him for the service. I did say I wish I could have made my point in a way that you could have understood it, because he clearly didn't understand it. But I think that's not because he's not a smart guy. It's because he hasn't had to think. He's had a trump card when it comes to the service that he's always been able to play. So anybody in his life, anyone he encounters, anybody at a family reunion, anybody outside of the VFW post that brings up anything, he just plays that card.
Yeah.
And if the answer is they haven't served, he thinks he's won. I'm trying to say, don't do that. Whether you're playing the Christian card, the racist card, the homophobe card, the whatever card, if you're gay, if you're a trans, if you're a woman, if you're black, Hispanic, if you're an illegal immigrant, if you have things that can help you make your point, rely on those. Don't bring that trump card in because it may shut down the conversation, but it doesn't win the argument. And it did shut down it did shut down the conversation. I did not pursue it with this guy. I thanked him. I was very nice to him. And then afterwards, they have a text line. So you could actually hammer out a text real quick and say, and people they were texting and saying, not tremendously rude things about him, but we're saying, hey, dude, tap the brakes or get the chip off your shoulder or things like that. I never talked about it on the radio. Didn't want to shame the guy or embarrass the guy. Just thanked him and thank you for your service. And thanks for calling. Mark will be back soon. We've talked about the irresistible force, meaning the immovable object. We talked about that in the context of, the MOI. Is it MOI? MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. Our goals and Iran's goals, they want the Strait of Hormuz. We want the strait to be open and free. They want to control it and charge for it. They want their stockpile of enriched uranium. We want it removed. They want to continue enriching uranium. We want to make sure that's impossible. They can never enrich uranium again, and on it goes. That kind of agreement will never work because the irresistible force has encountered the immovable object. So a couple of days ago, it was Wednesday, the president announced a deal with Saudi Arabia, announcing that they would be allowed to enrich uranium for domestic purposes. Now, he walked some of this back, and we'll talk about that in a second, but this is how it first came out on Wednesday. So we're in this war to keep Iran from enriching uranium. And the president, out of the blue, announces that we're cutting a deal with Saudi Arabia for them to get the ability to enrich uranium for domestic purposes. And this is something that is not good news for Israel. Israel has, though they've never admitted it, Israel has nuclear weapons. Okay?
Yeah.
They want to be the only one in the neighborhood with nuclear weapons. They don't want parity in that part of the world. Now, they would say that's because it puts them at risk. Maybe. None of us benefits from an arms race in the Middle East. So many people were surprised that the president would say this. They would come out and say, hey, we're cutting a deal with Saudi Arabia. Well, Israel, you might think, would be on the phone very quickly saying, hey, dude, bro, we can't do this. We don't want Saudi Arabia to have nuclear power. So yesterday, the day after the president saying, here's the deal, and it was signed, the president said this, the civil nuclear deal, and then he wrote, there will be no enrichment of material. That's a change. The civil nuclear deal being made between the United States Department of Energy and Saudi Arabia, which pertains only to non-military use, such as the ones that Iran and UAE and others already have, will be approved, but is totally subject to Saudi Arabia joining the very respected and successful Abraham Accords. The United States is not opposed to civil non-enriched nuclear facilities. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. Okay, so what is the president saying? After there was a deal signed, he's saying, oh, yeah. Now, this is all contingent on Saudi Arabia signing on to the Abraham Accords. Now, just a little elevator speech on what are the Abraham Accords. Abraham Accords are a bunch of historic agreements. They're brokered by the United States. It established formal diplomatic, economic, security normalization between Israel and these disparate Arab nations. It was part of the president's first term, 2020, and the accords are named after, of course, the biblical patriarch Abraham, and the point is to symbolize, he was the father of all three monotheistic religions, so Islam, Judaism, Christianity. Anyway, so Saudi Arabia, though, has been on record for a long time saying, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not going to sign on to the Abraham Accords. We're not going to do that. So this deal the president announced is effectively now not a deal, because after the deal is signed, the president puts a condition on it that they won't do. And I was watching, is it Caroline Levitt?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching her in the press conference yesterday, and man, she was being hammered. You would think there'd be a lot of questions about the war in Iran, and there were more questions about the Tate brothers.
Really?
Than there was about the war. However, most of the questions were about this agreement, this nuclear agreement for Saudi Arabia. And she's asking again and again things like, well, wait a minute, but did Saudi Arabia know, wasn't in the original deal just the day before? They said yesterday. And she said, well, I don't want to get ahead of the president. I mean, we'll look into it. This has always been important to the president. The president today, but she did admit it wasn't part of the deal. And so you sign a deal for something that Saudi Arabia wants. Then you say it's contingent on something that wasn't part of the agreement. So it's this whole series of agreements that really aren't agreements, or agreements with conditions on them that make it impossible, if not make the agreements dead on arrival. So whether you're talking about the Memorandum of Understanding, which has no chance because of the reasons we talked about before, or the civil nuclear deal for Saudi Arabia that really has no chance, that really isn't a deal unless Saudi Arabia signs on to the Abraham Accords, which they say they won't do, or they will do if Israel would just agree to a two-party solution, including supporting a Palestinian state, including land for the Palestinians, and Israel won't do those things. This is what I'm talking about. All these things are separate. The irresistible force is meeting the immovable object. Israel will never agree to statehood for the Palestinians, at least not as long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in charge, which, by the way, that's an aside. That's a really interesting aside. Do you know when there's going to be an election for leadership in Israel?
When?
Next? 2 weeks before our midterm.
Oh, wow.
And we don't know that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to stay in power. So that all could change. But my point is, the irresistible force, the immovable object. I saw a thing where Donald Trump seemed to be softening. I'm not kidding. He seemed to be softening on his opinion of Jimmy Carter.
Really?
Remember, Jimmy Carter had problems with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
So he seemed to be understanding maybe it's not always as easy as you think it's going to be.
As it looks from the outside.
Yeah. When you're not the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes it's easy to say we're going to end the war in Ukraine on the first day.
Mm-hmm.
We're more than 2 years later now.
Yeah.
It's still going on. No end in sight. This is going to be a 4 to 6 week war. We're in the 5th month now. But it's hard to forge peace in that part of the world. I mean, it's almost like these people in this part of the world have been fighting each other for thousands of years. Oh, it is time for Scattershoot.
Let's go.
Wilder Show Scattershoot. All right.
You like your coffee with milk and sugar?
I like my coffee with friends and family.
I've never heard that. I've never heard anybody say that.
Yeah, I
If
know.
you ask
I know,
somebody,
I knew
how
what
do you like
meant.
your coffee?
I know.
But Rocky Mountain National Park
That's
on a
right.
cool, crisp morning. Nobody ever says that.
You like your coffee
Yeah.
on the patio, in the morning on the patio.
I like my coffee in bed.
That's right. So it's like when somebody sees me wearing a jacket and they think it's too warm to wear the jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, "Are you hot?" I say, "It depends on what you're looking for." So, I used to drink it black in college, drink it black because it was so easy.
Uh-huh.
You have to doctor it every time you got a new warm up. You just put more in.
That's why you drank it black, just
Yeah.
because it was easy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was easy and you didn't have to, if you drank half the cup and then you go back in, you get some more half. You didn't have to say, okay, well, I have to put in, half a teaspoon of sugar and half a thing. So I would drink it in college. It was just black coffee, boiled eggs,
Yeah.
some crispy bacon. And
we're getting way far afield.
And then,
I'm not asking about your breakfast order. We're only talking about coffee.
Anyway, and then over time, Starbucks took over, made us all think coffee should taste great and sweet and all that. And so, to answer your question, I like it with a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of cream. But I would go for a little bit, even a little bit of milk. I don't need cream.
It
I don't
can
need
be half and half. It's just something to lighten it a little bit.
Yeah, a little lighten it just a tad. So a little bit light, a little bit sweet. And then, with family and friends.
Well, you're in trouble. No, not really. Not really. But the latest research has found that actually drinking coffee can be good for you, actually linked to a lower risk of several cardiovascular conditions, heart failure, heart disease, and stroke. And this isn't just a little bit of coffee. This is up to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day, which is the equivalent of up to 5 8-ounce cups of caffeinated coffee. Here's the rub, though. It's got to be black. And I've been drinking coffee for a very, very, very long time. And I have, for years and years, it was with milk and some sugar. And over the past few years, I've been able to do away with the sugar. Sometimes I might put a little bit of honey in it,
Honey's
but
good.
Mostly just a little bit of milk or half and half, like you. I can pretty much, half and half is really nice. It's, it makes it
Creamier,
even a little bit, a little bit creamier. But I can do with milk, just something to lighten it up a little bit. Every once in a while, though, if I have blood work to do or something like that, and you have to be fasting, but you can't have black coffee, I'll drink the black coffee and I'll think, well, this isn't that bad. I could, if I wanted to, I could probably drink it like this every day, but I never do. So what researchers have found is that the consumption of caffeinated coffee without any added sugars, sweeteners, flavors, or fillers, like what we were just mentioning, was linked to a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, the heart disease, things that we mentioned before, stroke, some irregular heart rhythms also, which I never would have thought. I thought that it was just the caffeine, but I guess, that could lead to those, because I've had some irregular heart rhythm things over the years. And I always thought that my caffeine consumption had something to do with that. And I don't think, even on my heaviest consumption days, I don't go over 400 milligrams of caffeine.
I mean, you said that's like 5 cups of coffee? No.
5 8-ounce cups of coffee.
At the most, I'll have maybe 2 cups of coffee. I don't need a lot of coffee. It doesn't really do that much for me. It's just it's like a psychological addiction. It's not, I never feel jazzed up or pumped up by the coffee that I drink ever.
I mean, if I drink it, I might have a cup in the afternoon if I'm really, really, really tired. And I guess, we're only talking about coffee now. There were years and years where I would have
soda.
that coffee in the morning, and then I'd have at least one giant Diet Coke, where I think the caffeine might be lower, but in the amounts that I was having, I was probably jacking up those numbers a lot.
I can drink a cup of coffee at 10 o'clock at night and go to bed. Fully caffeinated.
You go to sleep too?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No problem.
I mean, there have been studies recently that have said that that's not
not a good idea, probably.
No. That it kind of depends on the person. Some people are more sensitive to it. That you might be a person who metabolizes caffeine in a way that you can have it at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and it's not going to bother you at all. I don't think I'm one of those people. So it is a very fine line, though, because if you're drinking more than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day, that has been associated with negative cardiovascular risks. So that's where your increased risk of high blood pressure comes in, and irregular heart rhythm. And the American Health Association specifically points to, we think caffeine, I think coffee, but there are also these energy drinks and energy shots, which contain like super high levels of caffeine per fluid ounce compared to caffeinated coffee. So be careful with those kinds of drinks, because that really can jack up the amount of caffeine that you're getting.
Now those, I have had one of those make a difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody should drink those. I know people do. They drink the Red Bulls and the different ones, and maybe there are different ones that have different amounts of whatever, but I did drink one time, and I thought my heart was going to jump out of my chest.
No.
Yeah. It wasn't, I took it to stay awake, like I was driving or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped at a 7-Eleven and I bought, I think like the next week, the government banned that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Because people were having like real problems if they drank it. And I had it and I drank it. I don't want to say the name of it because I might say the wrong name. And I want to, cast aspersions on some other, energy drink that has not yet been banned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I don't want to say our body is super resilient to caffeine. It's just the caffeine that we get in coffee doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah, well, apparently compared to those kinds of things that you're talking about, coffee offers us a relatively small dose of caffeine.
And I probably should have said, you said, how do you like your coffee? I should have said my standard line. I probably should have said strong, hot, and bitter, like I like my women. So
mosquitoes. I had an interesting conversation with somebody about mosquitoes recently. This person had been traveling to a place where there were lots and lots and lots of mosquitoes. Like the air was thick with mosquitoes. They weren't getting a lot of bites, but they were also kind of dressed, long sleeves and they were protected from the mosquitoes. And I thought, well, I don't ever have to go there because I don't care how beautiful it is. If you tell me that the place is loaded with mosquitoes, I'm not really interested. And the response was, well, you don't want to live in a world without mosquitoes. And that's fine. Mosquitoes can be in the world. I don't need to eradicate mosquitoes. I just don't want to be anywhere near them. Have you noticed a lot of mosquitoes this year?
I've not actually, but I have one of those zappers that is on like half the day, every day. It's on at dusk and goes all the way into the overnight and is on at dawn every day. And I've had it on since March. So usually, and this is more than you asked for, but usually they say that if you start killing these things in March of the year, that's
when they're breeding,
that's right.
When they're starting to breed.
That's right. So you want to kill them quite early. So normally I have in the backyard, they're almost always all gone. Front yard less so. I don't zap them out there.
I've tried so many different things. First of all, I'm not doing anything right now. I don't have any of the zappers on. I don't have nobody's coming to spray the yard or anything like that. One of the beautiful silver linings about when it gets as hot as it is in the North Texas area right now is it seems like it's even too hot for the mosquitoes. I don't think, I think it's been a couple of weeks since I've even noticed a mosquito bite, but I've tried all of these things. Like I've had a couple of different zappers. I've had somebody come and spray who had his own mix of things that he'd figured out. It was all non-toxic, and he would come and spray the trees and
it's a repellent. It's not a killer.
Exactly, it was a repellent.
He just come back later.
Exactly, or go someplace else. Go bite them over there, and I never really noticed a difference. I've paid pretty good sums of money to have a service come every couple of weeks. And I don't think that I'm noticing any difference really in having nobody do anything. But this story has come out of North Carolina, suburban North Carolina. They're finding that mosquitoes are fighting back against the sprays that are meant to kill them, and they're gaining ground fast. Okay, the reason I really trust this study is because it was published in Parasites and Vectors. And I find I really trust whatever I find.
Whatever you read there.
In whatever
pretty much gospel.
In Parasites and Vectors.
Sure.
So there's a lot about this that has to do with genetic changes in this particular mosquito that they have in North Carolina. It's the Asian tiger mosquito, and it's specifically in Wake County, North Carolina. They've been studying this for nearly a decade. And when I talk about like the genetic changes, there's so much of that I don't really understand. But it gets kind of complicated. It's very interesting, but it's very complicated. But what researchers have found that was hard to ignore is that this mutation that helps mosquitoes survive this common class of insecticides that people use went from one central neighborhood to nearly the entire study area in just a few years. And they say that this is not that unusual, that the pattern in which they find these mosquitoes with this mutation, it lines up with the way that people spray for bugs in neighborhoods. Like, if you're in a big city, you might have common, like the city will spray for mosquitoes.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're in a place where they don't do that, you might have like one neighbor sprays the whole yard. They're really religious about treating the yard. But then their neighbors don't really do it. Well, what happens then is the mosquitoes that get sprayed, or the repellent is sprayed, they have this mutation, but they just go over to the neighbor's yard to multiply. So that's kind of how that's how they're getting resistant to the chemical in these sprays that is trying to keep them away. It's the Asian tiger mosquito. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but it's not just any old common mosquito. This is a mosquito that spreads diseases like dengue, Zika, and chikungunya. We knew a family several years ago that came back from vacation somewhere where there were a lot of mosquitoes, and they came back with this chikungunya thing from the mosquitoes. We'd never heard of it, and they were really, really sick with it. But so pyrethroids, it's one of the chemicals that they use to keep this particular Asian tiger mosquito in check, and they're not responding to it. The mosquitoes are not responding to this chemical the way they had.
Adapting.
And once mosquitoes stop responding to those chemicals, then public officials lose one of their most dependable defenses against it, and this points to the resistance that's already well on its way.
And those mosquitoes never even read Friedrich Nietzsche. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. They didn't even know.
Oh, man, they didn't. They didn't. It was a very long study in Wake County in North Carolina. From 2016 to 2024, they genetically screened 2,669 individual insects that have been trapped at homes and businesses, and a university site, too, that they set out, week after week after week through the summers. And their target was this tiny little change in the gene that controls how nerve signals travel through the insect's body.
I always marvel at stuff like that is on, they're going to study mosquitoes, and they're going to find out stuff that's in a mosquito. You know how small your surgical tools have to be to get
it's crazy.
To get into the mosquito.
To check out one gene inside a mosquito.
So inside a mosquito, their little tiny chest, you got to take the little tiny knife and
all of these things. I was not a good student in science. I didn't particularly love science. Well, everybody took biology as a freshman in high school. I didn't take it. I was not interested in it. You had to take biology before you could graduate. I didn't take it until I was a senior. I took no science classes in college at all. But every once in a while, I'll look at something like this and I'll think, all of the possibilities that are out there for things that you might do with your life, Can you imagine being a kid right now deciding, I would like to be a mosquito researcher? It sounds like it's wide open, like the field is wide open. There are all kinds of things that you could start. There are all kinds of things that you could study.
I liked science. I wasn't very good at it, but I took biology and AP biology, took chemistry.
Not me.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I actually bought, this will sound crazy, but I actually bought my AP biology book. I still have it. Yeah. My AP biology book, because I was so proud of the fact that I actually understood the Krebs cycle.
Oh, we've talked about that before.
I have that book. I still have that textbook from, let me think, that would be from 1978.
Yeah, those are the last books
what a complete
I ever
idiot.
would have wanted to buy and keep.
I kept that one. I don't know why. I just thought, maybe it's good reading later.
I don't know. When I hear stuff like this, though, now, like I said, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
We've had a little cat drama in my family recently. My mother-in-law has a cat that she's had for about 10 years, and the cat has started biting her ankles when she goes to bed at night.
Biting the cat's own ankles, or
no,
biting
my mother-in-law's ankles.
That's not
it's
good.
Not good at all. It's causing all sorts of
biting to harm
issues.
her.
Well, we don't. I mean, you can't ask.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Does she seem to be aggressive or just nipping?
Nipping. But I mean, this has been the friendliest, sweetest, greatest companion for her for many, many, many years. And now it's doing this thing that nobody understands. Maybe. And she's not going to be able to, we talked about maybe getting her a tall pair of rain boots or something like that she can put on. Once she's in bed, it's okay. It's just, I don't know. I mean, we'd need a cat psychologist for this. This cat loves her, but has never really been crazy about me. And it's kind of good because I'm allergic to cats.
That's right.
So I can't touch the cat. I can't cuddle the cat. We've talked about this recently too. And I always kind of wondered, does the cat know? Don't even bother. Don't even bother with her because she's not going to give me what I'm looking for. But it turns out you can learn to be a cat magnet. In stark contrast to cats' famously standoffish reputation, a lot of cats really do like to be around people. There's a study of 50 cats living in homes and shelters, and the majority of those cats chose human company over food and toys.
So you're saying if someone had a cat or wanted to be I can't imagine it, but if you wanted to be a cat person and you wanted to have a cat be a companion to you, perhaps more like a dog.
I guess like a dog, but I don't think my dog would choose me over food.
No.
I can't imagine being someone that a cat loved so much that they would choose you over food.
Interesting.
But they have a very, very sophisticated sense of smell. They can discriminate between the scent of their owner and unfamiliar people. That doesn't sound that different from dogs, but they can also pick up on scents that are related to human emotion. So researchers presented cats with swabs of sweat that came from people when they were feeling, listen though, this is so interesting, when they were feeling happy, frightened, stressed, or neutral. The cats did not appreciate the fearful scent. They don't want somebody who's fearful. They were more likely they flattened their ears, they swished their tail, tensed up, and backed away. So they found that cats would not if you have any fear, maybe not even if you're just, I don't know, if you're not afraid of the cat, but you're just a little neurotic in general.
Well, but what about this? What about this? Well, you might have some fear. You're going to have an allergy situation. And so you may be giving off the I'm fearful scent, and the cat flees.
Look at you figuring all of this out.
Flees.
Yeah.
With two E's.
Not that kind of flea. Yep. That's right. Cats also prefer people who act in a certain way. The science, apparently, of cat behavior is booming because there's still another study that says scientists filmed and watched a lot of cat videos, found that people who were more neurotic tended to interact in ways that were more controlling and less responsive to the cat's cues. They were not as respectful of the cats as the cats would like them to be. Cats want you to be less neurotic and more respectful of them. Obviously, not all cats are the same. They have personality differences too. So, one cat might love a neurotic person and somebody else, another cat, not so much. They did another study that had people just sitting in a cat cafe or a rescue center, a cat cafe, you heard me right,
a cat
for
cafe.
A couple of hours, just watching to see which cats would come up to the people and which wouldn't. And isn't that crazy?
Interesting. I'm sure there are cat people. There are people that cats would know, hey, that's one of my kind. That's a good cat person. I bet there are cats that would go up to certain people but not go up to certain other people, even strangers. I've been in some homes where they have cats. I don't seek them out. I did. I spent the night with a buddy, and sort of a guy thing we do every now and then. And I was asleep, and I did awaken to a cat on my chest.
Really?
Yes. It was off-putting. I thought, man, that's weird. The cat would be
So you must not be neurotic.
I guess not. Maybe I'm less irritating when I'm sleeping. It was so off-putting.
I have to check this out on another friend of mine who was just telling me about a neighborhood cat that follows her around, waits for her outside.
Aww.
She said sometimes when she comes home, pulls into her driveway, you know how you might sit in your driveway for a second and catch up on texts or do something like that. Yep. This cat will jump onto her windshield, splayed out.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Like
Ready?
trying to get to her.
You're
so
home.
Happy she's home. Yeah.
Wow. That's just a neighborhood cat.
A neighborhood cat.
That's
so my friend, I mean, she's a cat magnet, I guess.
Yeah. We said before, I dig the outside cat. The outside cats are good. I like them. Not inside, but outside's good.
This is my little Lauren's animal corner. I had a blue jay fledgling again this week, which the first
Explain
time
what that is, because people don't know what that means.
There's a blue jay nest in the tree outside it covers my backyard. It's planted right outside of my backyard, but it shades my backyard. And for years, there's been a blue jay nest there. And I think as far back as maybe 2021 or 2022 was the first time I had one out there, and I noticed that there were these fuzzy little baby birds. I think the first time there were 2 or 3 of them in the backyard.
On the ground.
And on the ground.
Oh my.
Yeah. And if I went out to try to get close to them, I mean, I couldn't let the dog out for sure. And if I went out even to try to get close to them, the male and female, the mother and father blue jay would dive bomb me,
funny.
Make lots of noise trying to keep me away, from the babies. I had no idea what was going on. I think I called a local Audubon society to ask them, what might be going on. And they said, you just have blue jay fledglings. Sometimes the mom and dad might push them out of the nest just a little bit too early, but they're going to stay. And the babies can't fly yet on their own. So the mom and dad will stay really close by, and they'll bring the babies food, they'll protect them, and they'll watch them until they're ready to fly away.
So they're on watch. They want to advance these kids, but then they hover around and watch and protect them, bring them food, bring them water, and then that's interesting.
Exactly. So
because they can't carry them back up to the nest.
No.
And once they're out of the nest, they're out of the nest.
They don't come back. They can't come back. Yeah. Mom and dad will they're gonna help you. They're gonna feed you. They're gonna help you on your way, but you're not going back to the nest. And so that happened that they all went off on their own at that time after a couple of days of the dog not being able to go in the backyard because the dog would have had a field day with the fledglings. I had more the next year and more the next year. And then maybe the last 2 years or so, I had none. And I kind of blamed it on all of these cats that are in my neighborhood now. Yeah. And I think most of them are just feral cats. I don't think they're anybody's pets. I think some of them are being fed by neighbors, but they don't really belong to anybody in particular. And I had, but then the other day I had another little blue jay fledgling out there, and I kept the dog inside, and I thought, this is not going to go well. How on earth is this mom and dad going to keep this baby safe? And the baby was out there, the fledgling was out there all day long, and I went to bed knowing that the little bird was out there. The next morning, first thing I saw in my yard, black cat. Thought, I don't know, maybe the fledgling flew away. Maybe its wings got strong overnight, but it was no more in my yard.
We're hold to that good thought. All of a sudden, miraculously overnight,
only took it a day.
It learned to fly and flew away.
Maybe it did.
All right, that is the Wilder Show podcast. Drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time or before, on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, sometimes on the TikTok. On Instagram is Wilder Show Pod, and our email address is podcast@wildershow.com. You can email us there, or you can engage us wherever you find us. Little thumbs up, little like, little comment, little question. So wherever you get your podcast, would you like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share? We really appreciate that. And Lauren, thank you.
You bet.
And we'll see you next time. Da 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 da.